Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. It is Tuesday night. It is around 8:30, and very late last night I returned from my vacation. Me and my wife went away for a week. We went to Jamaica, and this is the hat that I got. Jamaica since 1962. They declared their independence from Britain. We had a fabulous time. Got home very late last night. Today has been a full day, but I did want to do a video, and I was on the plane ride home last night thinking, might as well do a video showing my reggae collection, of which all of it is from Jamaica. Jamaican artists, except for one exception, and I'll show a couple of other things as well. So, without further ado, let's get into some Jamaican reggae. Now, it was interesting being there. Barb Marley, of course, the world ambassador of reggae music, is still all over Jamaica. When we were at the resort and all inclusive, we heard Bob Marley music constantly. No Peter Tosh. Didn't hear a single Peter Tosh song all the time I was in Jamaica, including a 2-hour shuttle ride, where they played, different songs to get from the resort, from the airport in Montego Bay. They were playing music. Didn't hear any Peter Tosh. A lot of Barb Marley, and a lot of pop music that you would hear in America. So it was kind of surprising. Not a single Rolling Stone song either. So there you go. All right, let's check out my reggae collection. Now, how did I discover reggae? Let's start with that, shall we? Really, like a lot of people in America, I probably first really heard reggae from Eric Clapton, from the album, 461 Ocean Boulevard. Of course, he did the cover of I Shot the Sheriff, which was a huge hit. I think it was the number one. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that probably, I'm thinking, would have been my first hearing of reggae music, Eric Clapton's cover, Barb Marley's I Shot the Sheriff. And at that time, I probably didn't even really know who Barb Marley was, except for, his name. Rolling Stones did some covers as well, and I'm going to get into that later on. But let's talk about Barb Marley. He certainly, and you saw the movie that came out not that long ago, and I just want to fix this so we could see some of the physical collection. Barb Marley still is by far the biggest reggae artist, and I have a good collection, as you can see, of Marley's albums. I don't have all of them, but I certainly have a nice selection, and I have a deluxe edition. So this is the deluxe edition of Catch a Fire, his debut, and this is really good because you get the two mixes. You get the original Jamaican version, and then you get the released album version from Island Records, and they are different for sure. So that's a great collection. They have done really a terrific job on these deluxe editions of Marley's albums, and I have like I said, I have a good collection of them. So let me just start sticking them up there. Now this is Burnin', the second album, and these are deluxe editions as well. And this one you get the remastered album with some bonus tracks, and then you get Live at Leeds back in 1973, an unreleased concert. So that was also that's a really good one as well. We'll stick these up there. What the hell? Just so you can get an idea. Natty Dread is the next one I have, going in chronological order. Lively Up Yourself, No Woman, No Cry, then Bellyful, classic tracks, right? And what can you say? Of course, they are classic tracks. This one is a cool one, Barb Marley and the Wailers, live at the Record Plant. This is a bootleg from 1974 performance. So Barb, obviously amazing live performer. So that was cool. My favorite Barb Marley album, and in fact my favorite reggae album, and it's in the top 15 of my favorite live albums of all time, is this one, Barb Marley and the Wailers live. He has other live albums that you're going to see, but for me, this is the one that is untouchable. This is a perfect album. This one does have the bonus track of Kinky Reggae, But this album is incredible, and when I bought this album, not to be dramatic, but that's the album that made me really fall in love with Bob Marley. I mean, if you don't have Bob Marley in the Whalers Live, you need to get that. And for instance, this is a Latter-day Live record, live at the Roxy, and great set list. It's the complete show, but really it still doesn't approach the greatness, in my opinion, on that original live record. Wow, that thing is still incredible. Let's keep going. Exodus. And this is also a 30th anniversary edition. Right there, beautiful packaging. In fact, when we were at the airport, there was a store for Tough Gum. So, it's amazing. Bob Marley is just an institution, obviously. Here is a deluxe edition. This was the 40th anniversary 2 CD edition of Kaya. And you get the original album right there, and then the second disc as well. And really, there's really no such thing as an Bob Marley album that's not really good. They're all really good. This is another Latter-day Live record, Babylon by Bus. Double vinyl album, but a single CD. And the song listing is great. The track listing is great. Performances are great, but still not quite as good, in my opinion, as that original live record. That album is great. One of the biggest selling albums of all time is Legend, the best of Barb Marley. There is a bunch of compilation albums. This is the one that everybody seems to have, and I totally understand why. It's amazing for sure. But there's a lot of Barb Marley compilations, as you're going to see. Here's one called Talkin' Blues. And here's another one called Rebel Music. They're all very different. So it's not just like you get like Legend, which is like, classic song after classic song. This album here, these collection albums, they're very different. Some of them are those really early years from the Wailers. Here's another one. This is one of those Hear Music. I think Starbucks put these out. But even this, some of these tracks are really deep. You get Redemption Song and things like that. I Shot the Sheriff. But there's some really deep tracks on these. So these get to be pretty interesting. Now, if you want the big hits and you want more than, the big Legend album, you got like this one, Bob Marley and the Wailers Gold. And these are really good sets. They're fully loaded. You get a ton of songs. You get all the classics, but much more complete. I mean, this thing's got, whatever it is, 34 songs on 2 CDs. So, can't go wrong with that, that's for sure. I'll stick these over there, maybe. And then there's always the box set. Now, this one I haven't even opened. I have a backlog of a ton of box sets. And this is the 4 CD Songs of Freedom. There's different versions of this. This is like the smaller box, and it's been in my backlog forever. So, haven't gotten to that one yet, but one day. Now, who else is my favorite reggae artist? Certainly Bob Marley is the one I listen to the most. He's just got wonderful melodies. The songs. They're hooky, wonderful melodies, great lyrics, great musicianship. No doubt in my mind, there's no mystery why he's the biggest reggae artist. But I was always a really big fan of Peter Tosh. And that's because of the Rolling Stones connection. The Rolling Stones, if you know, had their own record label, Rolling Stones Records. And they signed Peter Tosh. And they did this, for the Bush Doctor album, they did this single, You Gotta Walk and Don't Look Back, which was a duet on the Peter Tosh Bush Doctor album. But it's a duet with Mick Jagger and Peter Tosh. And it's great. I think it's awesome. And I remember watching that on Saturday Night Live. So that's how I got into Peter Tosh, because of the Rolling Stones 45, basically, and the album, which looked like that. This is the original, and that's actually a promo version, and it's got the hype sticker, if you can see it right there, of features You Gotta Walk and Don't Look Back. There is the original album artwork, and there's a shot of Peter Tosh as the opening act on the Rolling Stones tour back in 1978. So that's from a stadium show where he opened up. And this is a great album. So Peter Tosh, really a bit more hardcore, in my opinion, not quite as melodic usually as Barb Marley. And that I think that's why he's just not that household name. He was much more rebellious, I imagine, a little bit more dangerous, so to speak, and he was murdered, of course, as well. We'll talk about the Rolling Stones. Keith Richards, if you remember, did this really cool Christmas solo single of Run Rudolph Run, and this was back in 1978. But the flip side, Keith did a version of The Harder They Come, and it's awesome. This is the real deal. I love that version of The Harder They Come from Keith Richards. That is just a great, great version. And while we're doing the detour, we might as well keep going. Of course, on the Black and Blue album, the Stones did a version of a song called Cherry O Baby, which is actually a really interesting track. And that was a cover of a song by Eric Donaldson. Now, I did not know that song, and I would vow to predict at that point very few people, if anybody in America, knew that song until the Stones covered it on Black and Blue. And, of course, on Dirty Work, Keith does a great version of a song called Too Rude, which is just fantastic. And he also did it solo. So there's your Rolling Stones connection. That's how I got into Peter Tosh. But he's got quite the discography. And if you start with Peter Tosh, his first album was Legalize It. And, of course, the ganja, marijuana, he was really pushing it. It was illegal back then, and Jamaicans just go to jail for it. Maybe they still do, for all I know. So there is the original version right there of Legalize It from Peter Tosh. And we don't feel like having a fall. The second album was Equal Rights. This is a bonus, fully loaded one with bonus tracks, 2 bonus tracks. They have since come up with deluxe editions of these Tosh albums, but Down Presser Man, his version of Get Up Stand Up, which Stepping Razor, of course, Get Up Stand Up, was done, with Bob Marley and the Wailers, because Peter Tosh was originally in the Wailers, but he wanted more and became a solo artist. There is Bush Doctor, and this is a different version on CD of Bush Doctor. This is on Trojan Records from Jamaica. So this is a really cool version of that album. And I got a couple of these Peter Tosh. This is Mystic Man, also from Trojan Records. A different cover of the original release. And, like I said, I'm a big fan of Peter Tosh, but I totally get why he didn't cross over to the same extent as Barb Marley, just not quite as commercial. Eventually, the contract with Rolling Stones Records ended. Didn't quite have the huge success he was hoping. He went to EMI, did Wanted, Dread, or Alive. Great title. And then you get things like Mama, Africa, things like that. And this has bonus tracks, so these are like deluxe editions. He actually hit on this album. He did a cover of Johnny B. Good, trying to make it, and it's a good version. No Nuclear War. And looks like that. So Peter also got quite the discography, of which I have most. The first thing I ever had from Peter Tosh was he played My Father's Place, which was a legendary club in Roslyn, Long Island, which I taped on 8-track. And then I eventually got this release of it on CD called Live at My Father's Place, 1978. Fantastic show. It was when Bush Doctor was coming out, and I remember taping this and thinking it was so great. And then when I found it on CD, it brought me right back to my youth. And then he had one called Complete Captured Live, and then it's this Complete Captured Live, which was a 2 CD set. And he's great live, of course. And there are a lot of Peter Tosh compilations out there. And there's one called Dread Don't Die. And here's another one called Scrolls of the Prophet. And that's what those two look like. Now, if you want to go deeper, there is always a box set, 3 CD box set called Honorary Citizen. Got the original Jamaican singles, a live disc, and those classic album cuts. So that's a good one to have too. Come on, David, do not fall, buddy. Now, what's another big classic reggae artist that I really like? Well, those are the two big ones for me. Obviously, I have a ton of Barb Marley and a ton of Peter Tosh. From Jimmy Cliff, doesn't really get any better than The Harder They Come, and this is a deluxe edition. This is the soundtrack to the film. So you get, a mixture of great stuff. You get a lot of the best stuff of Jimmy Cliff. You get some Maytals, and you also get some other stuff. Now this, the deluxe edition, you get those crucial reggae tunes from 68 to 72, like the Israelites. Everybody knows that, Desmond Decker. This is an essential collection to get. It really is. The Harder They Come. But if you just want to have Jimmy Cliff, you can get like the best of Jimmy Cliff, Many Rivers to Cross, amazing song, Wonderful World, Beautiful People, another great one. He's got a lot of really good songs. The only Jimmy Cliff I do have are these two. So there's that. Now, what's another one I got? I got Third World, another Jamaican reggae band. This is one of those beautiful box sets that Chronicles put out, Mercury Records, and this is everything I would need from Third World. And you may know Third World, and if you don't, one track in particular is just so commercial. It is absolutely great, and it's called Try Ja Love. And it's on here somewhere. There it is, on disc 2. Try Ja Love, track 6. If you want to experience the best of Third World, check out that track. You'll love it from the first time you hear it. That's how great it is. It's a very commercial track. You'd be like, how's that song not a hit? Maybe it was. I'm not sure. Beyond this, what else do I have that's reggae? Well, Keith Richards put out these 2 collections. This is called Wingless Angels. And these were guys that were living in Keith's Jamaican house. And he recorded them really low fidelity. And then in the studio, he added some guitar. And it's very like acoustic-like. It's not reggae to this level. It's reggae, but it's not as commercial as like Bob Marley or Peter Tosh or Jimmy Cliff. But it's very interesting. And I guess it did okay because then he put out this thing called Wingless Angels Volume 1 and 2. Which look like that. You can see the pictures of Keith with those guys. It was basically just, they were living in his house, I guess, and just jamming, and he recorded them and decided to put it out. And it's an interesting listen, for sure. So, Wingless Angels, pretty cool to have. What's the only other one that I have? Well, I'm going to show you 2 more. And all of this stuff is Jamaican, which is where reggae music comes from. But UB40 had a big hit back in the day. They did I Got You Babe with Chrissy Hynde. But they did Cherry O Baby and had a bunch of hits. And Red Red Wine, everybody knows. So I decided to pick up this way back in the days. The very best of UB40. I'm just throwing it in there because they are reggae, even if they're not Jamaican. So, what the hell? I guess they could deserve to be there. And last but not least is this soundtrack album on vinyl. The original soundtrack album from the film Rockers. And this is a really cool vinyl album that I really always enjoyed. And Junior Marvin's, Police and Thieves. Clash covered that, of course. So some really good stuff on here. Burning Spear. There's Third World. So some great stuff to discover in reggae music. And I figured, just coming back from Jamaica, how can I not get into my reggae collection? So there you go. Let me know what you think. Do you listen to reggae? I'm sure you listen to Barb Marley. Everybody does. The movie was good. The music's fantastic. But Peter Tosh, going a little bit deeper. Jimmy Cliff, Third World. And then the Wingless Angels, the Rockers, UB40. Pretty decent little reggae collection. I hope you agree. So I am back. Give me a couple more days. I'll go back to work tomorrow. And then going to come up with a new series for you that was recommended by a viewer that I think is going to be real good. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.